Hey y'all, thanks for tuning into the video. I want to give you a little overview into the build quality of this before we jumped into the sound. So you can see the ear hooks are kind of weird. They get mixed up together. They're kind of hard to disconnect and take apart from each other. So I wanted to show you how that works. Also, a lot of people are familiar with build quality issues. You see this, the paint up close, it's already chipping and I've barely used it. So that definitely is a real thing. They are really pretty from a few feet away, but when you start really getting up close and looking at them in detail, you can see some of the issues. Now, the actual build quality of the unit itself is pretty good, but when you look at the paint, it isn't great. The cord that comes with it is this rope, and I don't know if you can tell with the texture, but it's this weird half rope, half plastic kind of feeling. It's very thick and bulky, and it's got a weird texture in the hands. It definitely doesn't feel great. The connector on the end of it is very good though. So it's usable, but it's definitely not a very one of my very favorite cables. This is the case that comes with it. The case is really nice. It's a hard case. The zipper on it's great. The little end on the zipper is great. I mean, the build quality is really nice. The issue is that when you try to pack it in there, it doesn't really want to fit because of the size of the cable. So I'm going to show you here as I start to take it out that like when you take it out, not only is it not fit very well, but it also gets very jumbled and kind of connected. I mean, the texture of the rope is almost like a cheap rope that you would have like to tie something down in your car or something. And then it doesn't want to come apart. You got to kind of pull it and then stretch it out every time you want to use it just to get it ready. And I'm lucky there the ear hooks didn't connect to each other. But sometimes the ear hooks connect to each other too, and that can be an issue. I think it's worth pointing out that they are kind of awkward to get in your ears, and the hooks are not very malleable, so they're not super comfortable. And every time I pick up this wire, the rope feels it's like half plastic, half rope. It's not just not a great feeling. And like from an OCD kind of perspective, it feels cheap and weird. And there's just something about it that's like it's like your mind wants to say, "Oh no, this is a nice cable," but then you're like, "No." In reality, it's like you really don't want to touch it, and it feels like something super cheap. So, all right, let's listen to some music. So I listened to "Hook" by Blues Traveler because it's just a song I know really well, and I've heard it a million times. And it's got some harmonica, and it's got a bass in it, and a voice that I know really well. It's just like I remember it. The issue is that so the arias are really fun, but they're fun in a way where the more you listen to them, the more limited you realize they are. Where the soundstage is a little wide, but it feels kind of vague. You get a lot of punch, not even punch, but like more of a deep, almost like a sub bass, like a really deep, like you can hear with the rumble in certain music. So you get that bass, and then I think to make up for it, so you can still hear the vocals clearly, they really crank up whatever the vocal performance is in a way where if you really listen, it kind of sounds tinny and almost thin. Um, so you're really left with a sound which is like this boosted deep bass and then a a tinny kind of amplification of vocals, which I mean it's cool, like it works for some stuff, but it's just after I've heard some different things, especially the tin hi-fi T3 is that, yeah, T3 plus. um, I just feel like it does more things well and more genres um, than the arias do. But let's keep listening. I'll kind of give you some feedback on some different songs. Right, time to untangle the arias, which again are a pain. Move on to the next track. All right, I may cut back. This is kind of a long song, but I'd like to listen to this all the way through. I can tell you from the beginning that this song, like if you listen to it on some DT 770s or the ER2 SEs, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of layers of different things, and you just don't hear that much in this song. But I'm going to listen here and see what I do here. Okay, there's some bells that come in here. You can hear them. In the imaging, like the soundstage feels not small. Like it feels a little big, but it's vague, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is like there's left, right, and then kind of back of my ears and in the middle of my head slightly forward. But, and you hear the separation, but it's just not an impressive way. It still feels like a mix of everything. It doesn't really feel like, oh, I'm hearing, the like a an arrangement of instruments that are all in different places. Like it still feels like it's all a melding of all these different things together. It's doing a competent job. There's some lower bass frequencies that I've listened to in some IEMs that you can't really hear it on this song at all. But there's like, at this point in the song, there's this angelic voice that's singing. And if you're listening along, it's like, if you listen on the right headphones, it's beautiful. And this is just kind of like, oh, it's there. And then there was a little bass drop there that on some headphones you hear this roll, boom. And like you really feel it. And it's just kind of there. The piano sounds nice. Like it's got that clarity, but also kind of weight to it that I like. And you can definitely hear that with the piano. The next minute or so are some of my favorite parts of a song to check headphones with. All of a sudden it's going to get a lot busier. There's going to be a big bass drop. The ting 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 bells start coming back in, and most IEMs lose that due to the bass interference from it. That's pretty impressive. I can feel the bass. I still hear the ting 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 ting, but it's kind of faint. I mean, these headphones basically say, "Here's your bass," and I'm going to make sure you can clearly hear vocals. I'm going to do it in an impressive way where the deep bass comes across in a very impressive way, but there's not a whole lot else going on in between them. Is how I feel when I listen to them. And we'll get to some songs where it does sound good, but I'm going to recommend these for specific genres, I think. So let's move on to the next song. This is a great one for the arias. It's like a nice deep thump, like really very satisfying thump. It's a boom, like it's a very reverb kind of bass, like a real deep, feel it in your chest kind of bass. In the vocal in this part, you can hear very clearly. But this is what I mean, where like it's very clear and it sounds good, but it's almost too much. It's like almost a little sharp. It's right on the edge of like being painful if you're turning it up too loud. Yeah, I'm just going to fast forward. I don't think there's much more to say about this song. It's a pretty straightforward song, but the bass sounds good. Okay, we got Whitney. This is my go-to for testing vocals. Sounds really good off the bat. Okay, this really surprised me. This sounds really good. There is a time around a minute, if you listen to it, where her voice... Here, I'm just going to rewind it so we can hear it again. Let's see, let's try it again. Yeah, right there, the ah... And then right here, the you. Love you. Like when she says I, like when she's singing that, most headphones and IEMs start to break apart there where it's also like it gets like almost fuzzy, like it doesn't know what to do with it. And I can say with the Arias, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than a lot of other IEMs that I've heard, and it sounds good enough to where I'm like, yeah, it sounds like something that I want to vibe to, that I listen to, that I enjoy. And then like I said too, like pianos and stuff sound wonderful on the Aria. So I'm surprised, but like for vocalists, I think this is a good option. Like it sounds good. All right, we're gonna go off of what I originally planned to do. I was just gonna listen to Whitney because I didn't think it was gonna sound that great, but now that kind of blew me away. So we're also gonna listen to some Johnny Cash to hear how a male vocalist sounds on this. I know maybe not everybody's idea of a perfect vocal, but to me, there's something I listen to so many times, and there's so much character in it. I still think it's a really good way to gauge a vocal performance. I don't. I'm trying to. There's something that bothers me about it. It's like when you've heard something a million times, it doesn't sound quite right. So it's very clear and it's very present, and it feels like maybe a step forward from the rest of the vocals. Like it feels very intimate, but it's still like there's some meat on the bone that I'm looking for that it doesn't. It's just not quite there. I don't know if it's a thickness or richness or if it's a it's like that tinny thing that I was explaining, but I'm still feeling that. Okay, there's still something that bothered me about that. I'm going to try Simple Man by Shinedown and see if I'm still feeling that way. Okay, I think I know what I'm feeling is that the clarity is there, but it feels like just a little bit of the texture and fullness and richness of the voice is taken in order to accomplish that. So let's check out Adele and see if it sounds as good as Whitney. Maybe it's just a male female vocal thing. All right, here it comes. Hello from the owners who I'm sorry. Um, I like the female vocalists a lot on them. Maybe it's that male vocalists have a grit, like a growl, that male component of it that I'm just not hearing that I miss. But I say if you're having a female vocalist and you don't care about the male vocalist as much, then I definitely give it. Um, Definitely, I think it sounds great for that, but I think it's missing a little bit on the male vocals. All right, so let's hear how the Grateful Dead treats us. I like this song because you get a good acoustic guitar, and Jerry's voice is something I know really well, so I know if this song sounds right or not. Guitar like sound great. You can hear the separation between the left and the right pretty clearly. Oh, the sunshine. It's so weird. There's just something that bothers me about it. It's very small. Maybe for a lot of people they wouldn't even notice it, but it's like clear and it's kind of forward, but it's like just missing a little bit of character that I'm used to hearing in his voice. And I know you call that like a warmth, or maybe it's a more analog kind of sound. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. Is like if you're into music that just sounds, very warm or almost like smoothed over. Or I mean, I associate it with the kind of musical equipment that we had in the 80s or 90s, which is you got a couple pair of you had a pair of Fisher speakers and a CD player or whatever, and it wasn't the greatest stuff in the world, but there's something about it that kind of gave it like a smooth power, if that makes any sense. And the way it would present things was not as clear, but it is more enjoyable, I guess I'll say. So, all right, let's see what else we got. Okay, I think this is going to be good. I can tell you, I've part of the reason I put some of like this style or like you kind of 80s music. These sound incredible with 80s music because they give you a so they take like flatter recordings, like anything like that, like say 70s, 80s, like 60s, stuff that was like kind of flat and needs a little bit of, like they need a little bit of party added to them. These are great for it because these are going to add some bass kick and they're really going to push those vocals out in front and make it a more lively mix. Yeah, say like, yeah, this is fun. This is so fun. Like the IEMs are like dancing in my ears, it feels like. Yeah. Every thump is fun. His voice is just forward enough to be like, oh, it's a little bit like, hey, pay attention to me. I'm at the forefront. I got to have faith, the faith, the faith. Ah. It's fun. It's fun. It's good. If this is what I listen to all day, these are great for it. Um, it takes apart the vocals from the mix. It gives it to you separate in a clear way that you can really differentiate and enjoy when you've got like this lively bass kind of beat going on in the background. All right, so the next song we're going to do is Thunderstruck by AC/DC. I'm doing this because I want to hear rock music, growly voices, drums, electric guitars, and a little harder and faster, and how the Aria treats this. Electric guitars sound good, but they're don't sound exactly like what I think of an electric guitar sounding like. A little bit electronic-y, kind of more than I want. It almost sounds like synthesized almost. Bass sounds great. Good hard stomp, like boom, boom. The separation of the guitars is really good. You can tell there's something different in the left and the right. Even different volumes. So maybe the best way to describe this is that these IMs turn everything into pop music. So even something that's supposed to sound hard, like AC/DC, you kind of lose a little bit of growl of his voice, but it's clear and it's forward and it's, feels good. Okay, you're getting what you asked for. You can hear everything clearly with it. So you do get that. But what you lose is the feeling of like real growl. You lose a feeling of like the intimacy of the song. Even the electric guitars sound like almost like they're on a synthesizer, is what I get. Now you do get boom boom with drums, but again, it's almost I don't know. I mean, they still sound good. I mean, compared to other stuff, they sound good, but the drums sound a little bit more synthesized. They just sound like a couple of boom boom rather than like, oh, that's a drum sound, for better or for worse. Maybe that's a good thing, but you basically take any song you want to listen to and turn it into something that sounds like it was made with like everything is synthesized basically. Okay, this song, I'm not even going to pretend I'm that familiar with Slayer. Like, I'm not super into heavy metal other than, listening to some stuff back in the day. Obviously, Metallica. Like, yeah, I'm familiar with some stuff. But when I listened to this song, I was just blown away with, I love the speed. I love how everything's coming at you with this. I'm going to listen and tell you what I get out of War Ensemble. Fast sounds good. Doom, doom. Yeah. Quick, fun, very punchy. Oh, okay. So his voice comes in, it sounds very shouty to me. I was like, I want to turn it down some. So I don't know if that's his particular voice or whatever, but I can tell you, I love how the drums sound and the electric guitar. I stopped caring that they don't sound exactly right because they're just so full of energy that it's fun. But I don't know about vocals with this, so I'm gonna play something else I'm more familiar with, so I can just double check that. Okay, so we're gonna do "Down with the Sickness" by Disturbed. This is one I know pretty well. The drums are very impressive for sure. Very deep bass. Now he kind of growls in the song, like so I don't hear the thinness. It's like does sound very full. Yeah, I got the guitars coming in, but again they sound a little bit synthetic. But it's like okay, cool, sounds good. Okay, so I can definitely say, well here we'll do one more thing just to make sure. Okay, so this is one I know very well. Hmm. Very fun, very powerful. Boom. Yeah, so like the hi-hats don't sound exactly like hi-hats. So I just say if you want like you enjoy listening to heavy metal, but you want like a more lively kind of pop kind of feel to the way that it presents it to you, then these could be a lot of fun. For me, I've used the melees for rock music, and I prefer it just because it feels like it gives you a more true to life, like what these things actually sound like, than what this is giving you. But you know, if you just it's got its own flavor, and you've got to appreciate that it's giving you something different. It's saying, hey, I know there's a version of this which is neutral. I know there's another version of this which is more of a V curved. I'm going to be more of just its own particular type of sound. I'm just going to give you something different. Maybe there might be a day that you're in the mood for this. I can tell you there's a lot of days that I'm not in the mood for this. And again, the 10T3 Plus I'll be doing a review on too. I'm going to tell you why, because I feel like it does a lot of the same things, but it just does it better in a way that isn't so... Like, you don't have to take sides on the 10T3 Plus, because it's doing a lot of these same things, but it's doing it in a way where it's not like annoying, like potentially annoying, where some songs sound good and some songs don't. Okay, we'll listen to a little bit of R&B. Yeah, I'd have to say these are very well suited for R&B. This sounds really good. Okay, let's get one more song to make sure that I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing. Okay, we'll listen to music. Music Soul Child, Half Crazy. This is one of my favorite R&B songs. I've heard it a million times. I can tell if there's anything weird going on in this song. Okay, when I'm listening to R&B, even with male vocals, I don't really care about the thinness as much, because I think a lot of times with R&B too, you're going to have more bass and stuff coming through. So the idea of just like, hey, I've got this big, thick bass, but I'm going to clear up the vocals even more so than is natural, just to make sure that it can peek through that bass and that you can hear it right. I think that's the move with R&B. It sounds right for that kind of music. Okay, let's listen to Kanye West, Jesus Walks. I think we'll get more of the same. Sounds good. Doo-doo. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm bobbing my head to Jesus Walks. I don't know what else to say. Like, you can hear all the separation right. You can hear the bass loud and clear, and it's a fun, thumpy bass. And his voice, again, is kind of peeking through there, and you don't lose it. It's not becoming, full of vagueness and kind of pushed back. It's like these IEMs were really made for bass heavy music where some of the details are lost, and they cranked up the details they think are the most important for you, which would be obviously vocal performance. All right, the old standby, September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do, 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 do. The horns don't sound real. Yeah, I don't love it for funk. I just don't. I hear the bass. It's lively, but again, it doesn't. It's like I'm losing perspective on what's even real instrumentation and what is some kind of synthetic, and I don't like that. Okay, most people know this song and have heard it 1,000 times. Okay, I'd say the acoustic guitar sounds very good and accurate, I feel like, on these. Okay, I don't love it. In some songs and some albums, like Fleetwood Mac the Chain, the song and the Rumors album has such an iconic song, and the way that it's mixed and produced is so beautiful in my opinion, that I hope nobody would only ever hear this through the Moondrop Arias, because some stuff, like I said, like if you're into 80s stuff that's kind of flat and boring sounding or whatever, then you need to lively up some of your music. Go have fun, like enjoy these these I, these IEMs. But if you have a beautifully recorded piece of music like this and you never get to hear it right because your IEMs they try to boost so many things and add so many things to it that you can't hear what they're originally trying to do. To me, that would be disappointing. So I'd say the Arias, keep them in your bag for, they're they're the party. They want to lively everything up, but I don't feel like they should be your only IEMs because they don't give you really an accurate presentation of what a lot of music really sounds like, in my opinion and in my experience, I'll say. Okay, we can check out some indie stuff. Everybody loves Bon Iver. The acoustic guitar is really beautiful, but the acoustic guitar that he's got in this is really beautiful, and like everything I've heard, they even sound good on Galaxy Buds Live. I think Bon Iver just sounds great on everything. It sounds really great. Actually, you can hear the separation of everything pretty well. It seems very clear. See, that's what's so hard about listening to these is that a song like this, Holocene, Bon Iver sounds like it just spruces it up. I don't know. You hear the clarity of different things, and maybe part of what he was going for this was a more melded kind of sound, but it helps to separate out stuff that sounded kind of mushed together and vague before. The more pointed, maybe it's the treble, whatever it is, but whatever it is that causes the voice to sound thinner, but like more defined or more pushed towards you. Also, in this song, seems to give you a separation of uh, the acoustic guitar sounds really good. You hear different instruments. His voice, where I always think of this song as like it's almost like a mix of vocals and instruments, and it's like just kind of like this mush. And I like the mush. I like the mix of what he's trying to do here. But I always looked at it. It's almost like this eclectic stew of a song. And with these, I can really hear all the different things that he was trying to do in it, which I think is cool. All right, we'll listen to a little bit of jazz. It's really nice so far. I don't have any complaints. It sounds really good. It's interesting. I don't know why that would be. This sounds so clear and so right on, where there's so many other ones that don't. But there's something about this song where everything is just kind of clicking. I don't, maybe it's jazz in general. There, everything sounds enjoyable and clear and true to form. So I don't know if this was a boring older recording and that's why it feels that way. But there's definitely an element of authenticity that I hear that that I don't feel with a lot of other genres. All right, so to wrap it up, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope if you got any value out of this that you enjoyed it. If you would like the video, it'd be awesome if you'd subscribe and also leave a comment. Like if there's something you don't agree with or a song that you think I should add, leave that down there. Anything that you can do interaction wise, I'd love to help or give feedback or tell me anything you think I could improve upon. I would appreciate it. I already knew before I started putting this on video what my takeaway is with the Arias, but I wanted to do this in case you're thinking about buying them as well. And I guess my takeaway is that they're a good pair of IEMs. I don't mind them. They're not the most detailed. They're kind of vague in their presentation at times. They give you good soundstage. They give you some separation there. They don't give you what feels like a ton of mid bass. Instead, it feels like the real low end of bass is what they've added, like the part that are really impressive in a way, like what you'd hear at the beginning of a movie, where and like you feel it in your stomach. Like it feels like that's the area that they have really boosted. And then to make up for that, it feels like when you're trying to listen to vocals, they cranked up the clarity in the vocals in a way where it loses some of its character and some of its volume. Not volume, but like volume is in size, is in girth, in detail. and instead you get a little bit thinner version, but it's able to pierce through the bass a little bit easier so that you can hear everything. Um, and that's fun on a lot of things. Like if you have flatter music, like especially if you're an '80s head, I'd say get these. It's so much fun to listen to '80s music on these. You know, George Michael or the Bangles or anything like that's got these older songs that are they're mastered in a way where they're kind of they're a little bit flat sounding. This adds so much bump to them in the bass, and then it brings the vocals more front and center, and it really makes it a fun experience and transforms music. But I think for a lot of music, it does it a disservice. It changes it into something that it's not, and you actually miss detail, and it miscategorizes things. So basically, if you want your headphones to or your IEMs in this situation to change the sound to something that's more palatable for kind of more flat, boring music, I'd say go for it. Um, but if you're somebody that likes something that's truer to the original, or you like a lot of detail, or you want to hear a lot of the nuance of the different areas of the music that you're listening to, a lot of times the REs won't give you that. But some things they do really well. Now, spoiler alert, I am going to tell you that the reason why, I think part of the reason I'm down on these a little bit is that I have the T3 Plus, which are super fun, and I feel like give you a lot of what the Aria gives you, but without some of the downsides. So the vocals are still a lot more clear and feel truer to form. Bass still gives you a bass boost, but it feels like more punchy and like balanced rather than just a real low end bass. I feel like you get more detail out of the music that you listen to, but it doesn't give you quite the sound stage. But I think the trade-off is worth it, and the build quality is a lot higher on those two. So at the end of the day, I'd say if you've got these, great. If you're thinking about getting them, especially if you love, um, flatter kind of music that could use some spicing up, these can be a lot of fun. But if you're looking for something to give you a lot of detail, an accurate representation, a neutral presentation, of the music you get, and you just want to hear it loud and clear and enjoy it, this is not that. This is a party. This is an IEM that's a party. So I hope that was helpful to you. Please leave a comment, subscribe, obviously, like the video if you don't mind, and thank you for watching.